I had to say it before she said anything.
Anything said she
Because
reversed words.
no, stop it. Because I was the one that pressed play. So
I'm sorry.
no, but you're always like opening the episode by shrieking at people, and they'll be like, "Oh my god!" and like
Lesbian Talk.
right like that, and they'll be like, "Jesus Christ!" and like immediately reflexively close the whole entire YouTube tab, and then be like, "I better go do something comforting, like have a tea, or eat a bath, or something."
Have a G.
G.
Or an L.
No. So it's us again. We're exhausted. Okay, I'm exhausted. I don't know about you.
I'm waiting for stuff to finish rendering so I can edit it. It takes ages to render stuff for my videos, and I'm currently rendering really big files so I can edit the flubs. And I'm almost finished 16 Samurai. Gotta record a little bit of extra line, waiting for the cover, and basically
if we got you a new Mac, like, would it render faster?
Probably a little bit faster, but a lot of the footage is just big sizing. I mean, I don't know how to go from the camera card straight to the Mac without having to convert it into QuickTime and then render it. I just don't know how to do that. We should
Google that to see if there's a way to do that.
In my old HD camera, where it was from tapes, it would transfer automatically to the Mac and would not need any rendering unless you did something with it. But with this, you need to render it from scratch, and it takes fucking ages. It could take 27 hours to render all the complete set of footage from one session of filming.
There's got to be a better way to do that.
Well,
if you know, write the show.
Well, it slows me down a bit, but it's mainly because I convert the raw footage into a big QuickTime file because I don't want to lose quality. You know, the camera, it doesn't have as good quality as the old one, and I don't want to make it even worse by just converting it into a crappy quality.
I see.
Anyway, we a couple of days ago watched Shadow of the Vampire.
I had to watch it. I was forced. I was tied to the couch.
I saw it literally like 16, 15 years ago, and I own a copy. Obviously, it's the origin of the clip I sometimes used of, if it's not in frame, it doesn't exist, with John Malkovich.
People putting on German accents to speak English with.
Especially Udo Kier. He is well known for his fake German accent.
No, because I actually thought, wow, that guy's German accent's really bad. And then I realized that, oh, he's actually German.
I had that experience watching Halloween 3 because the villain guy, who's the old man from RoboCop, he's actually Irish. And his accent was hilarious in it, and I was sure it was like an American doing an Irish accent. But, so, it's been a long time since I saw Shadow of the Vampire. So I brought a copy over to watch. My copy brought it over so I could look at it in my own time. But then I was editing and I discovered that the guy who directed it directed Begotten, because it's on my review list. But you can't get a copy of it for less than about $300, so I don't own a copy. Although
why is that though? Why are some films just so expensive?
Never got another release apart from the original. I assume it was probably not a very big release. But you can actually watch it on YouTube for free. It's this black and white Arthouse hellscape of a film. So naturally, I want to do a review. So I'm like, oh, he did Begotten. I remember. Oh, Shadow of the Vampire, awesome. This is an excuse to watch this. Honey, let's watch Shadow of the Vampire and talk about it in Lesbian Talk.
I was like, alright, yeah, sure, whatever, I guess. I mean, I don't know.
So that's why we watched it.
It was alright. It was weird. It was weirdly German, except not. And, I don't know. I had Willem Dafoe in it, being ugly, as he usually is.
Now, if you don't know Shadow of the Vampire, basically it's a dramatization, a very rough dramatization of the filming of Nosferatu.
Like, it's a good idea, but it went weird artsy places, and I was like, okay?
It's based on an actual rumor, because there was a myth.
What kind of... Is this a comedy? Is this a drama? Is this Arthouse? What kind of film are we watching? Because I think I lost track.
Well, there was, back in the day, years and years ago, there was a myth that Max Schreck, who played Nosferatu, was actually a vampire because people didn't know much about his career, especially people in the English-speaking world, because he was a German actor.
Oh no, the Germans.
So, this obviously...
Don't mention the war vampire. I think I got away with it one time.
So this film was based on that idea, and It is good. I still enjoyed it. I remember watching it, liking it back. When it first came out. I saw it in like the local film festival. I like to view it as like a companion piece to Tim Burton's Ed Wood. But after rewatching it, I looked at a review which had an amazing point which I had not considered, and they're entirely right about.
What?
The vampire, the vampire does not. Okay, the idea is that F.W. Murnau has hired a vampire to play his vampire because he wants authenticity, and rather than so naturally, what you should do is have a vampire who acts like he's in the vampire movie the entire time. He just is. Like he was, like in the film, the guy says they don't have to act, they just have to be. But the vampire in Shadow the Vampire, he acts. He has different personality, whether he's on screen or off screen. When he's talking to people and being himself, he is not like Nosferatu of the original film.
Well, maybe that was the only vampire that he could find who just happened to be a bad actor.
No, I'm talking about this is a problem with the construction of the way the film is scripted. Oh. It's not a problem with per se with the myth or Murnau's idea. It's even though it is an objectively a terrible idea from this fictionalized version of Murnau. What they should have done was have the vampire be the sort of wide-eyed, weird, not saying anything, well, barely saying anything, being just stick insect, sort of parody of a person the entire time. You don't give him a personality because the vampire Nosferatu didn't have one. It was just this thing that was vaguely human. Mm. Which it would have made more sense in the context of the myth. Okay.
I guess just the whole thing kind of, I don't know, like, it ended, I was like, was that the end? Was that supposed to be funny? Was it supposed to be poignant? Like, I'm not really sure what just happened. Like, that's the end. I was like, oh.
This is what happened when you get the director of the music video for Antichrist Superstar to make your vampire.
I've never heard of that song.
Antichrist Superstar, Marilyn Manson.
I'm not a Marilyn Manson fan. I know, like, 2 Marilyn Manson songs. That's because they charted.
I'm shocked that you didn't know there was the title track from his album, Antichrist Superstar, which was before Mechanical Animals.
Yeah, I worked at a CD shop right after Mechanical Animals came out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm just not a Marilyn Manson. I mean, I can, the 2 songs I can think of is Beautiful People and
that's from
his cover of Personal Jesus.
Okay, well, Beautiful People was from the same album, Antichrist Superstar. The Mechanical Animals is a far better album. But, yeah, the film has its issues there, but...
Exposing me as not a Marilyn Manson fan.
This one has Cary Elwes in his final, hey, I'm Cary Elwes, and I'm kind of hot, yeah, ha, 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 type role, because right after this he put on a bunch of weight, started doing only fake American accents, and appeared in Saw. He became middle-aged Cary Elwes, and this one he's like, yeah, if you squint, I'm almost Prince Wesley from Dread Pirate Roberts. Oh, I discovered, Princess Buttercup from Princess Bride is in Wonder Woman. She's the general of she's the Amazon general.
That's kind of cool, I guess.
Yeah, I was like, holy shit. But you've also got Udo Kier, who obviously, I know, audience, that you are discerning in such things.
German and creepy.
You are familiar with Mr. Kier from films like the Dracula movie he did with Andy Warhol, where it's like, was it Dracula? No, was this Frankenstein? Where he's like, it was fuck life in the gallbladder.
What?
Yeah. Udo Kier talking
that
about
makes no life. Kind of any sense, ever.
This Udo Kier doesn't need to.
I guess.
Sorry about that noise.
That was a bicycle, probably.
He also played Yuri in Command & Conquer Red Alert. He was in Blade. He was in The Editor from Astron 6. Udo Kier's fucking awesome.
Creepy.
Yes, that's his entire thing. He's basically like Tim Curry, but less camp and more creepy.
Yeah, I guess so. Eddie Izzard was in it, which is always interesting.
Yep, is one of Eddie Izzard's earliest dramatic acting roles, although he was more being a silent film star, and he was very, very, very accurate at that.
What, just kind of vaguely annoyed about everything?
Well, sort of being, doing the really, really big theatrical sort of, wide-eyed acting that doesn't require any kind of subtlety at all.
Yeah, I didn't realize that because there's no sound, That basically, like, the director just kind of, like, talked them through the whole thing.
Yeah, makes sense,
I was
though.
like, that's really good. Why doesn't anyone do that anymore and just scrub the sound? And it's all ADR anyway.
Well, problem is they'd be listening to the director while trying to do dialogue and stuff. Plus, honestly, it's partially a lost skill.
I don't know, it just struck me as, like, really cool. Like, oh, that's the way things used to work.
Although you get a relation of that with some actors, like Marlon Brando and now apparently Johnny Depp. They refuse to read their lines or learn their lines, and they have them fed to them via earpiece.
I think that should be in your contract. You have to, like, do the job you're hired for. I don't care how famous you are. Just learn your fucking lines like everyone else.
Well, their job is to do the fucking lines, not to learn them.
Well, I don't know. If everyone else has to, they have to as well. No one's special.
Well, what do you call him?
Unless, like, you have a disability, you know, that for, like, if you are, like, very severely dyslexic or if you are a special needs actor, that's fair enough.
Well, if I remember correctly, Marlon Brando went so far as to refuse to even say the lines in some films, like Apocalypse Now. He basically mumbled, made up a bunch of stuff, sort of rambled, invented stuff, and they sort of edited around it.
They shouldn't have. They should have been like, no, you're going to do this or you're in breach of contract, and we will take you to court. No fucking around.
Of course, with Marlon Brando, he was meant to be playing this crazy colonel who escaped into the Vietnam jungle for like 18 months and been living sort of subsistence with a bunch of crazed sort of supporters. And then he turned up like 300 pounds overweight. So they basically had to shoot him in the shadows the entire time. Which worked really well in the final film, but must have been really irritating for Francis Ford Coppola. Who else is in this? You got Willem Dafoe as the titular vampire who had the shadow. Although apparently originally the script was called Burned to Light as a reference to filmmaking.
Mm-hmm.
But Willem Dafoe could not get his mind around it, and he thought it sounded like it should be called Burn Ed to Light. And he wanted to know who Ed was.
I see.
It's like if Willem Dafoe is that dumb, you gotta change it, because obviously the audience will be dumber. I don't know.
Burn Ed. No, do not burn Ed. He is my best man.
Right at the start, you got these wonderful Art Deco sort of designs for the credits, and I was like, hey, that one looks like Nicolas Cage, and you agreed.
I did. And then
the next bit, it was like, executive producer Nicolas Cage, and
I was like, is everybody involved with this crazy? I mean, I'm not mean like actual mental illness. I just mean crazy.
So it is my view that the face that looks like Nicolas Cage was actually put in there as an in-joke for Nicolas Cage.
He's like, ho, 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 I approve of Nicolas Cage. I don't know, it was just kind of weird and, like, William Dafoe struck me as a very autistic vampire.
Yeah, basically.
I don't know if that was deliberate or not.
He was very Spectrum.
Autistic vampire sounds like a great name for a band, if a bit insensitive.
But the vampire Nosferatu was definitely not autistic.
No, I was just being funny.
If you want the most accurate modern film version of the actual Nosferatu vampire from the original film, the closest you probably find is in the elderly vampire Peter in What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh, I didn't really like that. If you've never seen What We Did in the Shadows, you owe it to yourself to see it, because, quite honestly, it's a diamond in the rough. Mm-hmm. We went in expecting something weird and quirky, but what we got was so much more. And aren't they shooting their new one soon, or did it get delayed because your man's doing Thor? Well,
they're planning a sequel. I don't know if they're actually, they're involved in the creative thing, but there's a sequel happening. Apparently it's called Werewolves, as in We Are Wolves, and it's about werewolves.
I hope your man is in it, the guy from before. Spoilers. There's a werewolf.
Well, there might be, if it's concentrating on the werewolves themselves.
Yeah, the guy who became a werewolf at the end.
Yeah, if it's concentrating on them, then we might get cameos from the original vampires, but it'll be werewolves most of the time.
Yeah, I was just go see it, or not go see it, go rent it. It's really great, or rent it. Jesus Christ, we're like it's 1997. Just buy it or watch it on Netflix or something. I'm sure it's on Netflix.
New Zealand's having a bit of a horror renaissance right now, which is pretty nice.
I wouldn't really call that horror though. It's like horror comedy.
Well, comedy horror renaissance because you got Housebound, and Deathgasm, and What We Do in the Shadows all came out around the same time, and they're all comedy horrors.
Okay.
So I don't know what's up with New Zealand right now, but good work, guys.
Maybe it's the sheep.
No, that was Black Sheep.
No, like the sheep are begun directing.
Maybe.
Because we all know there's only like 2 people that live in New Zealand, Lucy Lawless and Peter Jackson.
No, there's 3 and Peter Jackson is 2 of them.
Hey, that's mean.
It's a fat joke.
What if you like lost weight? Then wouldn't you feel bad?
He did lose weight while filming the King Kong and put it on again during The Hobbit.
Oh. Well, anyway, so it was a thing. I certainly did feel more intellectual after we watched it, because I could be like, I watched a German intellectual movie about art.
Well, sort of. It's an American film about a classic expressionistic German horror film.
Yeah, but a lot of Germans were involved, so I think that counts.
I should probably show you the Werner Herzog remake of Nosferatu with Klaus Kinski as the vampire.
I saw a Werner Herzog documentary once. It was about volcanoes. He waxed eloquent. The part about the volcanoes and like the cultural impacts of them were really great, but then he would just like kind of wax eloquent over crowd shots, and I was like, I
am Werner Herzog, and you are all ants in my world
like,
of cinema.
The volcano does things like it spot fire or something, and I'm like, okay, that's grand. Okay.
I have a tape of a man eaten by a grizzly bear.
Oh, he was involved in that one, wasn't he?
Yeah, he directed Grizzly Man.
I remember when that first came out, and people were like, oh.
One of the bits in it is him listening to the recording of the attack and the killing, but he doesn't play any audio from it. He just listens to it himself. And then afterwards, it's like, you must destroy this audio. It is wrong.
You sound nothing like him.
Herzog has a really odd accent, and I dare anyone to do an impersonation of Werner Herzog and not sound like someone else. If you want to come up with a silly, weird voice, just try to do an impersonation of Werner Herzog, and you'll miss in such a way that it'll sound funny.
So, yeah, see it if you
It is an insignificant bullet.
I wonder if Elise has ever thought about reviewing it as Maven of the Eventide. I know she will still occasionally make videos when the demands of parenthood are not as great.
I don't know. Do you know what, since I've reviewed a vampire film?
See, I don't know. I go back and forth because I don't like when people are like, oh, it's a new twist on vampires, but it just turns out to be the same thing. Or
Well, sometimes it is a new twist. Like, have you ever seen I Bought a Vampire Motorcycle?
No.
It's got Anthony C-3PO Daniels as a vampire slaying priest.
Okay.
This film exists. It's English from the early 90s.
Of course it is. Like, I remember my friend and I took her little brother to go see this movie called The Littlest Vampire, and it was set in Scotland, and it was really cute, but it was still a kids' movie. Like, this boy, like, his parents are American, and like, for some reason, like, I think it was for the dad's work that they're living in Scotland. The mom's not really enjoying it, but because there's a scene where like she accidentally drives to the wrong side of the road and they nearly die. But so he meets this wee little boy vampire, and it turns out like his whole family are vampires, and like there's some kind of like evil corporate person involved, because of course there always is. But like, I don't really remember what happened in it, but it was cute, and the vampire finally could fly.
See, when you got little children vampires with like, families of vampires and all doing amusing
They were
things,
Scottish vampires.
I maintain.
And they all had like Glasgow accents, even though this like took place in the Highlands, because probably like those were the actors they could get.
But I maintain that the gold standard for that kind of thing is Young Dracula, the TV show, with Keith Lee Castle as Dracula.
Never saw it.
The main character though was his son, Young Dracula. Oh, it's really, really good.
See, the whole child vampire thing. I only like that concept when it's kind of like the unexpected, like, oh, it's a wee boy. Oh, it's a wee boy vampire. And he's like, I'm like 1,000 years old, fuckers. I've got the mind of a 1,000-year-old.
Well, these one in Young Dracula, the vampires, they can have children, and the children are normal until they hit like teenager. Then they sort of go through this sort of, it's like quick into puberty.
No, it's like vampire puberty.
A little bit like that, yeah. Where they turn evil and want to destroy it or want to kill everyone and.
Well, it should be the opposite of humans. That like instead of getting like weird and gothy, they get like raver and like happy.
Well,
they like chew ecstasy and.
They go weird and gothy, but like constant weird and gothy.
Or they get really into pop.
But the.
And social media and makeup.
But in the story, Count Dracula, who I believe was meant to be Vlad the Impaler, their local peasants rise up, so they all have to escape, and so they end up in the English suburbs where everyone mistakes Dracula for an aging and retired rock star from the 70s because of how he dresses.
That's
and
great.
how he goes on.
Oh, I love that. Rock me, Amadeus. No, that was someone else.
Yeah, like they assume he's like a friend of Ozzy Osbourne's.
That's great.
So the children who are not yet turned into full vampires, who are not sure if they want to turn evil, are sort of going to the local school where one of them makes friends with this like goth kid who's really obsessed with vampires. He's like, "Oh my god, I want to be a vampire! Bite me!"
No, it sucks, dude.
And they have like a Renfield sort of slave that they drag around everywhere.
That's cute, but it also sounds like it could be really, really obnoxious as well.
It's fucking awesome. It is. I really appreciate well-written kids' TV, and that is an example of it.
I guess. I don't know. I just like vampire. Like, don't get me wrong, because I've played a shit ton of vampires in LARP and in tabletop. I mean, if you only know about tabletop gaming via Dungeons and Dragons, White Wolf Publishing, they're still around. They keep passing their licensing about, as they get bought out by successive companies. But they did. They had it was like the goth punk setting, which is supposed to be. It was the world of darkness. It was supposed to be our world, but like a little bit more suckier. And you played a vampire, and it was a struggle between the vestiges of your humanity and the vampiric life, and it got reset from the Masquerade to Requiem, and they both have their benefits as tabletop games.
Yeah, Vampire the Masquerade world is basically the entire world is the worst part of Camden, New Jersey, at 2 minutes to midnight on the coldest night of the year.
No, I disagree with you. Not Camden, because Camden, well, at least in the 90s, and I think it's still mostly black.
Oh, okay.
Like that was.
I said it was run down.
That was the one thing about World of Darkness is that like
everyone's white.
Well, yes and no. Like the characters weren't, because I mean the werewolf did have a fair share of diversity going on, but mostly the people that and this is coming from someone who lived in the Philly metro suburbs. Just take this what you will. We only knew one black kid that gamed, and he was a college student, and he was a black goth. And I remember his name, and I'll not say his name, just in case, like, it's distinctive and, I don't know, people hunt him down on social media or something. But we had this theory that he wasn't a college student. We had a theory that he was a postdoctorate sociologist who was pretending to be a college student to study us and our little subculture. Because, like, he was just such a goth. Like, he was, like, super goth. Like, okay, once, there was an apartment that at least 75% of my male friends lived in at one point or another. And we would all go and hang out there. And so one night, we're a whole bunch of hanging out. We were watching Fight Club. I think we were watching it on VHS, or it might have been when Matt got his first DVD player, but whatever. So Matt had a batleth, because he bought a batleth.
I would buy a batleth.
And it was kind of cool, but like it was just like on the floor, because I think one of us had been playing with it. So this kid was like sitting with like the batleth, like the blade, and it was a blunted blade because it was something bought at a convention, mind, like against his jugular, and all of a sudden, like he just says, "I can feel my pulse through the blade," and I'm thinking to myself, "Oh my God, he's gonna sneeze and cut his own throat, and there's gonna be us trying to explain this to the 911 operator, that he wasn't killed in a fit of drunken Klingon rage, he sneezed and cut his own throat with a batleth." But that was just how goth he was. Like,
that's how, teenage Klingons tend to die.
Like once after the LARP, we were at Denny's, and then like he started telling the story about how he got his appendix out, but how he woke up from the anesthetic, but he was conscious, but his body hadn't woke up, which is actually a thing that can happen, and it's horrifying, and I'm really afraid that would happen to me. But like he could feel everything, and he could see everything, but he was paralyzed because of the anesthetic. And now, I don't know if this is really true, because he did tell some pretty tall tales, like, about his former life before college, that we eventually figured out were, like, total, like, fabrications. But he's telling the story about watching, and this is what makes me think that it was wrong, like, watching them take out his intestines, and they were spooling it over the one doctor's hand, and, like, to hold them in a place. I don't think that's how an appendectomy works. I don't think they have to unspool your intestines. So he's telling this big long story. He might have been
hallucinating.
He might have. And Peter Johnson, you recall him from, I think, a very early episode of Lesbian Talk called Dick Dick, Son of Dick Dick, was sitting there, and our food comes, And, like, they're just putting big old, like, and these are American-sized portions at Denny's, just plates loaded with greasy diner food. And he's, like, looking at his hamburger, and then Casey's like, and then the blood was pooling, and I could feel it pooling around my legs and my penis, and like, just going, this long, gory story. And I just gave him the mind. I started eating it. Peter's got this look on his face, like, I want to take a bite, but is that impolite? I'm listening to this gory story. So, if you're a black goth, write the show. Not to say that
I went to university
there aren't any black
with a black goth called Tim, aka.
Was this one of the people that I met in England?
You didn't meet Tim.
Okay.
No. Tim, basically, really, really lovely guy. Sort of genderqueer black goth, 6'8", would like to walk around in a black leather trench coat and lingerie.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
See, like, I don't know, like, because I know that there must be people, like, back in the 90s, there were people of ethnicity, people of color, and ethnic minorities who were into LARP and who were into to goth culture, but, like, maybe they just kept to themselves.
Yeah.
You know, like, because I'm like, it
definitely exists.
I've
known a couple.
I mean, I know that, like, the suburbs that I lived in were, like, kind of integrated. Like, there was, like, I mean, I would say maybe, like, 70% white.
Where I grew up was Northern Ireland, which
Yeah.
is the whitest part of Western Europe. But I went to university in Midlands of England, so it was...
There's all sorts of folks there.
Yeah, yeah. Like, I'm guessing, just a guess, that the population is probably maybe 70 to 80% white, but that is still hugely diverse compared to Northern Ireland.
Or maybe it actually is a cultural thing. Like, maybe it's like one of those things that it surrounds privilege, that like, oh, you know, that was the joke, that you're like, oh, suburban kids, how am I going to pay for all my LARP books and LARP costumes? And, I mean, we went to Goodwill to buy our LARP costumes, but like, you know, like, oh, we need to like, that's our fantasies. Oh, we pretend we're vampires living downtrodden lives. We pretend we're these supernatural creatures, like, slumming it in the grim, dirty city. And maybe, like, people without, like, white privilege or without class privilege don't need that because that's their life, except minus the
vampire part.
Yeah, the supernatural part.
Anyway, now we're going into the second part of the show.
Hey, I just made a really great sociological point.
Yes, but we're 27 minutes in.
Let's talk about Doctor Who now.
She's going to spend the entirety of us talking about Doctor Who complaining about that I cut off her sociological point.
I'm going to make a video. No, because I'm in the social sciences. In a month I'll be graduated. And I haven't really talked about this in social media because I'm waiting for one last confirmation. But it's 99% likely that I'll be starting a PhD in the fall. So I want to talk about the social sciences more.
You graduate? Oh, Mrs. Omega, are you trying to seduce me?
Yes, come here. But no, I don't mean, we have to talk about Doctor Who now. We watched another episode of Doctor Who.
I'm Omega. I hate watching Doctor Who. That's why that's why we're weeks behind the
No,
actual show.
the reason...
Even though Hagen watches Doctor Who dutifully, I just don't care.
It's not that I don't care.
Freedom and guns.
I'm tired. I started going to the gym, and I've got more hours at work because now it's the summer term, so my visa doesn't constrain me. I can work as many hours as I want.
Cheesesteaks.
Yo, cheesesteaks are fucking amazing. Bite your tongue. But yeah, so we watched the episode Oxygen, which was is Oxygen Network still around? Oxygen. I remember when it started as a television network at one of the advanced cable options as Oxygen Television for Women. I'm like, don't we already have Lifetime?
I have
television
no
for
idea.
victims? Well, shut up. If you're American, you know what I mean. But
do they? If it vanished years ago, then there's a decent chance of our audience don't know what we're talking about.
No, since I haven't had cable in a long time in America. Because remember, I haven't had cable since 2010.
Holy shit, you used to date Josh Brolin?
What? Shut up.
He's playing Cable in Deadpool 2.
But yeah, so this was an episode in space, which is nice because it's nice to be reminded that space exists. And I guess the plot twist, immediately. Yep. It wasn't really a plot twist, it was a plot reveal.
Yeah, it wasn't a twist.
But yeah, but I guess
the next episode has a plot twist.
Okay, I'll see if I can get that. Sometimes you're just really good at guessing narrative based on foreshadowing.
Yeah, you're really good at that.
Yay!
Now, this is another good episode. I mean, Series 10, up until
it was good, except we had to endure Nardole. I can't stand him. He was a big nard.
Nardole is much easier to deal with than he was in the Husband to River song. But
yeah, but that's because what's-her-face was there and I like her.
the
actress that plays her.
River Song?
Yeah.
Alex Kingston.
I like her, yeah.
Series 10 continues to be... If the entire run of Series 10 was as good as up until this point, it would be the best series of New Who... Best series of Who since season 26. But... Well, the one with the monks I've not enjoyed. I've only seen the first 2 parts. So I can't say for sure, but I'm not expecting the last one to be any good. So maybe they just blew their wad creatively in the first 6 episodes.
And everyone in space has English accents.
Yep.
Spoilers.
Yeah, the lovely bit where racism, space racism
so
was
funny.
finally brought up because
Racist. Hey!
In my 20 Who's, I've pointed out that the Doctor has been racist to various scripts, especially in Stephen Moffat's here, but in Russell Davies's as well.
Well, you're allowed to be... you're allowed to be racist to Daleks because they're like Nazis.
It's not just Daleks.
Alt Daleks.
Alt Khaleds. The, in, like, for instance, there is the one with the fucking space Titanic. You've got Bakafa Fakalata, who the Doctor compares to a conker. You've got the fact that with Strax, he constantly compared him to a potato. These are insulting things based on that particular species' sort of physical characteristics. It's racist.
Does Strax know what a potato is?
Well, I imagine he does because he's been living on Earth.
Yeah, but he still can't really on to genders, so...
It's still the Doctor being racist, which the companion being racist when they first accidentally racist to an alien, first time they've ever seen an alien and they didn't expect to see it, and then suddenly, holy shit, alien, and then they have no idea what to say. That makes sense.
Oh, she kept trying to make it better. It was great.
Yeah, it was hilarious. But
he's like, I usually have to deal with racist stuff, and he's like, why? And she's like, seriously? Because he's like, humans.
But the Doctor doing racist stuff knowingly, that is out of character. That's what bothered me. This was well handled.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty funny. But yeah, so it actually, like, it would be a great plot for a space horror video game. Like all of the others that are out there. But.
Yeah, I thought it was really funny that in the episode with Thin Ice, right at the end, the Doctor's talking about how everyone's lives mean the same and profit is bad, that sort of thing. YouTuber I watch occasionally, Kevin Logan, put up the little clip from the end, and he put it up on a video saying named it "The Doctor Talking About Socialism," which is true. That's what he was doing. And then you had a bunch of people in the comments going like, "Yeah, but the last episode featured the saying that the aliens should charge rent to the humans. Yeah, the Doctor's a capitalist. Yeah, but socialism's terrible." And it's really nice that the series, because Doctor Who has traditionally been a left-wing show. Okay? Whenever it's had a political point, it's generally been left-wing.
Yeah, like, isn't there that one that was because the writer was pissed off about the inheritance tax?
Yeah, that's the one time it's been economically right-wing. That was The Sunmakers. It was a really good story. But yes, that was economically right-wing. But generally it's left-wing. From the crazy environmentalism of...
and the Happiness Patrol.
And the Happiness Patrol directly being a parody of Thatcherism. You've got those elements. So I am really glad that the Doctor Who is being openly anti-capitalist, because Doctor Who has been doing that on and off since the beginning. It's the consistent worldview of Doctor Who. Okay, consistent's not the right word, because occasionally it doesn't, but... Persistent. Yeah.
Because that's nearly the same. I thought it was a good episode.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually said, if you've got a fear of suffocation, I bet this was a difficult episode to get through.
Yeah. And it's interesting seeing how different shows, Star Trek gets the reputation of being like space communism because it lives in a post-scarcity society, and no one's paid, so it's just, you get stuff for free.
And everyone has like 7 physics degrees. But
with Star Trek, at least, except for Deep Space Nine, generally money just doesn't come into it, so it's not really...
Gold-pressed platinum, where are your females?
So it's not that...
Did you guys know that the Ferengi were supposed to be like space Americans?
Yeah.
Obnoxious little space Americans.
Yeah, in the same way that the Klingons were originally designed to be the Soviets. And,
yeah, but the Romulans are so much better at it, though.
I think the Romulans were meant to be the sort of Red Chinese.
Oh.
Sort of, these were the ones who they were in Cold Wars with, stuff like that, and who they want peace with, but they've not achieved yet. And then the next generation, the Bajorans are meant to be crossing the Jews and the Irish. And the Ferengi...
Bajorans like fucking Mossad. I never got the Irish out of that.
Well, terrorist campaigns against an oppressive colonial force.
Yeah, I always thought Mossad first, not the IRA. Sorry, honey.
No, it was...
Maybe if they had Major Kira always wearing a bowler, then I would have connected them to the Irish.
But
because all Irish wear bowlers. Seriously, you guys, everyone has one in like 3 different colors. I've got one. I just haven't worn it on camera. These are true facts. These are not fake news.
Anyway, even the Ferengi, in their first appearance, Data compared them to 19th century sort of Yankee traders. The word Ferengi was taken from Farang, which is Thai for white foreigner or generically foreigner, but usually used to describe Americans. It was Gene Roddenberry's attempt to satirize and to parody and to other
we're so nice
American
the Thai.
capitalism.
We like buy their curry paste all the time, and here they go calling us names.
Well, Farang is basically a bit like Gaijin. You know, they don't know what the origin of the word is.
We don't have a word for foreigners besides foreigners.
Yeah.
I mean, besides like
we
specific slurs, which are not good.
If you're from the island of Portland, the south of England, you got Kimberlin.
That's great. They actually have a word that means someone ain't from around here.
Who's not from their tiny little fucking island.
And I'm like, you actually have a word for that. Someone like decided like this will be the way. Linguistically, you guys, going forward, this is how we're handling this. So everyone get on board.
They want to know, are you a Kimberlin or not?
I don't know.
I come from 1 mile away. You're fucking Kimberlin! But, Star Trek is not a socialist thing because money doesn't apply. So it's like post-economics.
Yeah, you just kind of like go off and live life, pretty much.
Yeah, while Doctor Who, whenever economics comes up, 9 times out of 10, it is left of center economically or socially.
I just don't understand a lot of this. Like, someone tried to explain me the gold standard one time and I think I fell asleep. Like you say capitalism and all I can think about is we need to spend money to have things. But then, like, you're like, oh, it's socialism because they don't have need for money in... But I'm sure you do if you're a human. Just the people in the Federation, kind of like they're like in the army. Like, in the army, you don't have to worry about that kind of stuff because you get room and board.
In most versions of Star Trek, money doesn't exist. Because there's no need for it.
Because they kind of live in a utopia.
Because everything's replicated. Money might technically exist, but it's generally only when dealing with people from outside the Federation.
See, I thought that's how things were going to be once they invented 3D printers, and I've been let down.
Well, 3D printers aren't quite replicators.
Can we call this episode Space Capitalism?
If you want.
Aces.
But, occasionally Doctor Who has done right-wing stuff, though not economically often like there was the Sunmakers, obviously. If you want to see the most horribly right-wing episode of Doctor Who done by someone who was an unmitigated, racist, pro-imperialism, bigot fuckhead, watch William Hartnell's story The Ark, which is the TARDIS is coming to this generation ship, where you get humans going to this new colony world, and they got the humans, and they got a slave race called the Monoids. And they have an adventure with them, and it's like everything's fine, and the Doctor's like, oh, well, slavery's a thing, because, you know, this person who wrote this was horrible. And then they try to leave, but they arrive back on the generation ship several hundred years later. And it turns out most of the humans were wiped out because Dodo, the companion, had a cold. And the other ones had no defense against it, so most of them died. And then the Monoids took over and enslaved the rest of the humans. And then the Doctor teams up with the humans to overthrow the Monoids. And then at the end, they get to the planet and the Monoids are fine with being servile again. The entire moral of the story is, if you are being subjugated, don't try to overthrow your oppressors because you should be oppressed. And it's like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's really like a really bad message to send people.
That's a terrible message to send. It's... most of the times when you get horrible shit in Classic Who, it's an accident, or it's just people not thinking things through, or
the Talons of Weng Chiang.
Yeah, like at the time in that it was common in British TV for yellowface to be a thing. It was very common, and I'm not defending that. It was just that is what they did. It was horrible.
Did they not have any Asian English actors?
There are some. A couple actually turned up in Talons, but there weren't many.
Because there have been, like, you know, like East Asian peoples in the UK for quite a while, just as long as there's been Indian peoples.
Yeah, but
They don't find any with a London accent.
No, they used several. They just preferred to give the main roles to guys in yellowface. It's not a good thing. And I'm a firm believer in judging your past generations for by your own standards. So I'm perfectly fine with people hitting that. But it's not out of its way to be. It's not gone out of its way to be hideously horrible. Not like the
on
Ark.
purpose racist.
Yeah, the Ark goes above and beyond just that. It's built into the episode's very story DNA that oppression of groups who look a little bit like caricatures of black people is a good thing.
Oh, that's really horrible.
That makes the Ark particularly bad. The other one in William Hartnell's era, which is fucked in that sort of way, is the Celestial Toymaker. That's got a lot of anti-Chinese bigotry, although there are people who maintain it doesn't, and there's other ones who maintain it does. I think it does, and I talked about that in the Quick Guide of Classic Who.
So check that out if you want to know. I can't link to it because I don't know how to do annotations. So
yeah, annotations are gone on YouTube.
Oh.
I think it's season 2 of the Quick Guide to Classic Who.
Use thy Google foo, my followers.
If it's not 2, it's 3.
Followers. The 3 fans that listen. Thank you, 3 fans. We love you.
But yeah, Doctor Who, consistently left-wing. It is nice that it's doing it so loudly with thin ice and with oxygen.
You should have, like, Jeremy Corman on, like, fighting a Dalek or something. Would Theresa May do this? Would the Tories fight Daleks for you? No, they wouldn't.
In the 80s, there was the comedy show The Real McCoy, which featured Lenny... I think it was The Real McCoy. It featured Lenny Henry as the Doctor. He regenerated from Colin Baker, and he was taking on the Cybermen's evil leader. And they were like... Here's these evil people have taken over our world. Oh no, who is it? Davros? He goes, no, it's worse. It's Thatchos. And it's Cyber Controller crossed with Margaret Thatcher. It's great.
It's always time for a Margaret Thatcher joke. But yeah, no, it was a really good episode, and the next one is the religious one, right?
Yeah, that's Extremis. Which I've seen already. I liked it. It was controversial at the time, apparently, and a lot of people didn't like it. I liked it. Thought it was better than the Pyramid at the End of the World.
Did people not like it because it was, like, offended their sensibilities of religion, or...?
No, it wasn't it. Like, people were saying, oh, it's basically like one of these Stephen Moffat episodes that the clever episode at the end of, 6 episodes of Stephen Moffat running around doing bullshit. I didn't quite get that.
Oh, so it's one of those this person was the bad guy the whole time.
It's like this one is designed, based around the twist.
Oh,
but
I didn't. Good twist. There's nothing wrong with a twist.
I didn't get that issue with the episode though. I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts about it.
My thoughts. Well, whenever we get to that episode.
Yeah.
I love Bill. I really do.
Bill's great.
I really, she's the companion we've always deserved.
Yeah.
Not the one that we've got, but now the one we deserved.
Yeah, and really sad there's not going to be more Bill in 12, because...
Is she definitely confirmed?
Apparently so.
Oh.
12 got so fucking shafted by Jenna Louise Coleman deciding not to quit at the end of season 8. It's like, Jesus Christ. We got basically series 9 is a spiral of... It's a bit like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. series 1, where it's like, we can't actually do what we were planning to do because shit's changed, so we're just sort of going through the motions, and it's crap.
So we're gonna get a new Doctor and a new companion?
Yeah, apparently so.
I don't like that. I like when a companion has to adapt to the Doctor's regeneration.
Yeah.
Because that's neat.
Yeah, like...
like Perry, be like, oh my god, you're weird and harsh and abrasive now. You used to be a sweetie, what the fuck happened?
Well, most of the times when there was a new companion, when there was a new Doctor in Classic Who, the new companion had just joined. So it was a case of first story with the Doctor and then the regeneration happened. Mm-hmm. So they didn't really get time to be with both Doctors in any meaningful way. Like, Ben and Polly were there for a season before their regeneration, then they left before the end of the next season. There were no companions stayed on from 2 till 3. And then for 3 to 4, you had Sarah Jane, who'd been there for a season, and then she was with Tom Baker for 2 more seasons. Then you've got Tegan Adric's been there for the whole season, just about. Then you got Tegan and you've got Nissa. Although Nissa wasn't actually a companion, she becomes a companion later on. It's confusing, but Tegan's like, oh, I just got picked up. Oh no, died. Now a companion. And then Perry was picked up the episode before the regeneration. So generally, it was a case of we introduced the new companion on the final episode or the episode before.
Fair enough.
So we still got the shock, but it was a case of we still got a new companion with a new doctor.
Because in the Cage of Androzani, she really did get on well with Peter Davison.
Yeah, she did. And sometimes you get really horrible situations like that. Like she got on really well with Peter Davison, and we never got to see much of that.
Although out of character, Nicola Bryant got on well with Colin Baker.
Apparently not at the start. Peter Davison riled her up by kept telling her that Colin Baker was terrible and a horrible person and a monster and a diva and
Okay, well, I'm basing that on their loving interactions over Twitter.
Yeah, they're friends.
They're like, hello, dear heart.
They're friends now, but Peter Davison was basically trolling her.
Oh.
And she was really worried whenever he arrived.
Why are you an asshole? I'm not who said it. I'm Colin Baker.
Like Leela, Louise Jameson, and Tom Baker, they were not friends at the time.
Yeah, but because Tom Baker really friends with anyone, really?
Tom Baker, I think he was probably friends with Romana, given that he married her.
Oh,
At least friends for a little bit. Then they divorced quickly. She was very good friends with Elizabeth Sladen, who played Sarah Jane. They were really sad whenever they had to get rid of the production crew decided to get rid of her.
Oh.
I think they did. Wait, am I remembering correctly? Tom Baker was excited about the possibility of having no companion at all because
It'll be the me show because it's not enough me.
Yeah, basically. He also said he wanted a talking cabbage as a companion.
That's stupid.
Well, just because then people would only pay attention to him. The companion. So his point was the companion is only there to ask him questions, and to make the Doctor look good. So
he did realize that he was not actually a Time Lord; that he was just an actor, right?
Probably. Tom Baker sometimes has a loose grasp on stuff. He was drunk a lot of the time too.
Well, I remember you telling me that.
At one point, he after he retired from Doctor Who, he was in a taxi, and the taxi driver was like, "I recognise you, sir. You was on Doctor Who, weren't you?" And he goes, yes, I was. Mm-hmm. He's like, "Oh yeah, I always liked you, Mr. Pertwee. You were far better than that idiot who came after you. What happened to him?" And then Tom Baker said, apparently without missing a beat, "Well, I heard he drank himself and died in a ditch."
Lol. John Pertwee was great though. My mom still has a crush on him, even though he's technically deceased.
Technically, it's only been 21 years.
I like to say technically deceased because, all right. So I used to work in healthcare, and what I did, I worked for a medical review company where we reviewed patients' charts for medical necessity. So I was in administrative capacity. I would do copying and filing and a liaison between doctors and nurses and all that kind of stuff. And so I was copying a chart once, and the patient had said, "Here's all of my medical charts, including the notes from my doctor, so and so, in parentheses, currently deceased." Currently deceased, as though that might change in the near future. So I always like to say
maybe they're a
currently.
Christian.
I always like to say currently or technically deceased because I think it's funny. It reminds me of that person.
I think Tom Baker must have been thanking his lucky stars over the entire of the 2000s, that decade, because Hartnell died in the 70s, Troughton died in the 80s, Pertwee died in the 90s, and he's going "Yes, made it!" Because, it's the first decade since Doctor Who began that we didn't have a Doctor dying. And they're going in order, regardless of age, they're going in order.
Don't say things like that. Don't want to think about people dying.
Well, if the system continues, we'll be several decades before Colin Baker dies.
That's good. Oh, by the way, you definitely should follow Nicola Bryant on Twitter because she tweets a lot about her puppy and her garden, and she's just like a wee dote.
I'm totally an American.
That's something that people say over here, a wee dote. Mine's a sweetie.
Hey, doctor, let's go to the lift.
I know, right? No, you'd say elevator. Perry say elevator like an American.
And when she was first announced, they did some interviews, and she actually put on the American accent for the interviews to pretend to actually be American, which was really funny.
That's kind of cool. I like when they get English actors to play Americans. They just hire an American. We're cheap. Literally, no, we really are.
I'm still shocked that Mac McDonald never turned up in Doctor Who. He's an American actor who generally plays. If you're having a British production, if you need an American character actor who's not a big part, who's just his whole thing is to be, "I'm through with this shit," You get Matt McDonald.
Okay.
He was in, for instance, he was the leader, the boss of the colony in Aliens, and he was the captain in Red Dwarf. I'm shocked he didn't turn up in Red Dwarf ever. No, in Doctor Who. No, he did appear in Red Dwarf.
So the BBC can hire me. I will gladly voice an American who's done all this shit.
Yeah. Although Tegan was actually an Australian.
I knew that.
Janet Fielding is really Australian.
Yeah, but like the Commonwealth still counts as English, as far as I'm concerned.
Don't tell them that.
No, I mean they're closer. They're closer to that than Americans are. Well, the Queen's still like on their money and everything.
Well, that's true. But
yeah,
still...
because sometimes we'll get Australian coins and it's really great because they have like platypuses and like really weird, crazy Australian animals on one side, and then the Queen on the other.
English money is legal tender in Northern Ireland, but you call us English and you'll get in trouble.
Yeah, no, but I mean that like they're technically part of like they're like cousins.
Yeah, but they're still not the being cousins doesn't make you the same as doesn't make you...
Not the same. It's just like from an American point of view, like they have like relations. They're it's part of all that whole thing.
It's not our fault that, you know, they're the grown-up children of the UK who decided to go off on their own after maturity. Well, you guys ran away when you were 10 and, you know, you became a prostitute.
No, that's Canada.
No, that's USA. Canada stayed under the roof
No, I'm saying Canada was the good one. Yeah. Like, Australia, you know what they get up to. They're always the news for, like... Okay, from what I've gathered thus far, from news stories in the past 10 years, Australia is kind of like how Florida is to America. Yeah. Australia is the Florida of the English-speaking world. Is that fair to say?
Florida is in the English-speaking world.
No, but like if like a state to a country... If Australia of all one state of all the English,
it does have a similar reputation to Florida. I'm not denying that.
It's an analogy. Florida is the United States, as Australia is the English speaking world.
Just saying, if the UK was a parent,
but Canada's the best child.
Yeah, Canada is the sort of beloved child who went off to university and did very well in university. New Zealand is the hippie child who went off and started an organic farm. Australia is possibly the one who goes and surfs a lot and is
still kind of like racist.
Well, I'm not gonna.
No, because
I have no idea what racism is like. I've never been to Australia.
What happened to the Aboriginals?
What happened to the First Nations? The white people killed them.
Yeah, but I think it was like worse in Australia. Because everything can kill you in Australia. Now there's white people that will kill you too. Nothing kills you in Canada except maybe like a grizzly bear or something.
I want to kind of to say that...
So you could hide from white people and grizzly bears at the same time. We're so culturally sensitive this episode.
I just like to say that I'm not. I do not know enough to put a value on which group of Indigenous people suffered unjustly than any other.
Because it's so hard to live in Australia anyway, and then here come white people killing you.
Well, my point is, they're all the different children, and America is the kid that ran away aged 8 or 9
If you're an Aboriginal person or a First Nations person, write the show and tell us if we're wrong.
And ended up as a drug-addled prostitute.
Yeah, but now I want to come back. Actually, no, we don't, because England is racist. We want to join the EU. I think a whole bunch of Americans who are just sick of this shit should just like, I don't know, colonize one of those like Pacific islands where like there's nothing but a few trees, and then like have like just like this is a country now. Apply to join the EU, and then like emigrate to Germany. This is my plan.
Well, the wonderful thing most of Europe has, the UK doesn't, but a lot of Europe does, if you have a parent or a grandparent from there, quite often you can claim citizenship. This
is true. My mom's granny was born in County Mayo, but she grew up and lived in Letterkenny in Donegal. And so I put my mom in touch with an immigration lawyer down in Dublin because I think she should apply for her passport.
Yeah.
Because then if she's a citizen, she and my father can settle, here or go to Scotland or,
Yeah.
anywhere they want, really. So, yeah, Doctor Who is great. After we talked about everything else and insulted, like, at least 17 nations.
I didn't insult them.
I did.
I insulted one. I insulted America.
But that's okay, because I called out my own white privilege as a LARPer. So there you go. That's worth a few points at least. But yeah, so we'll be back at you next week. Or the week after, I don't know. Or me and a whole bunch of my classmates are going to some wee little island off the coast of Donegal for a weekend.
When are you doing that?
That's the 16th, 17th, and 18th. Okay. I took it off work. Yeah, I think there's a ferry out there. because I think like Megan and a whole bunch of people are driving.
Well, if there's enough people there, statistically, there's going to be at least one furry there.
No, not a furry, like, you know, with the...
Oh, not a furry.
No,
okay, that makes it so much clearer.
The boat that you can take a car on.
I had no idea that was a stereotype about furries, about furries, that you can drive... Do they stick micro machines up their ass? Is this a type of yiffing I'm not familiar with?
Hey, leave furries alone. People are always
You're
down
the one
with
who's saying they're being fucked by
ferry,
cars.
a ferry boat. How's that? There's a boat that... I don't know. I think Megan's gonna be
a furry boat. That won't be very good. That'll sink easily. That'll absorb water.
If you want her to shut up, comment below.
That'll absorb a lot of water.
I will kick you, and my steel toe boots are still on. No, but there's gonna be a lot of alcohol. Probably Cards Against Humanity. You need to get that back from Teddy.
I'm intending to go to Teddy's this weekend and hopefully filming the review for Colonel Kill, motherfuckers.
Good. Bring back your Cards Against Humanity. So things and stuff, and I'm tired, and you'll get more lesbian talk this month than before. Because now that I don't technically have things to do yet, I still have a paper that my supervisor and I and another professor are working on to submit this summer, so we'll see. But yeah, so that's been Lesbian Talk episode. She's giving me a look. Episode 117. I have been the Omega Geek, and honey, who do you want to have been this week?
I want to have been... I don't know, because I dramatically moved my head to try and be all like, ooh, this has pathos and depth. Then I couldn't think of someone.
You know that when you like leave long pauses, I edit them out?
Oh, Jesus Christ. I want to have been Zibizbiz.
Whatever.
I made up that person.
Of course you did. We'll see you next time.